And I know that because I just had Taco Bell like I do every Wednesday before I record the shows. So we are all together here getting ready to talk with Jill. Jill, I didn't even ask you where you're located.
Norman, Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner.
Oh,
about to join the SEC.
The SEC, that's right. Are you okay? How's it? I didn't even ask. That's the most important thing. How's it? How's the reception down there? I mean, you got to be. Dude, the SEC is the best conference in the history of conferences. Come on.
After the last couple of years in the Big 12, we, or at least everybody I know, is excited. My husband and my dad, that's all they've talked about for weeks, and we're all very excited about the potential for this. So we're excited.
Every game's like a bowl game. Like because we escaped back in 2012. We escaped the Big 12. Like, I mean, we weren't winning the Big 12, but you guys were. But I'm just telling you, I mean, you might not win as much, which I don't think you will. I mean, you'll be competitive, but you also have Alabama and, Georgia. I mean, a lot better competition in the SEC. God, it's fun. Oh, my God, the stadiums you get to go to. It's unbelievable.
It's going to be so much fun. It's going to be so – because we've been kind of on the top in the Big 12 for so long. It's going to be nice to actually, get in there and, be having to be competitive more than we have been. We'll actually be forced to take it seriously like we should.
When you're thrown in with Texas, so you kind of keep that rivalry too, which is kind of interesting because we got thrown in with A&M, which we don't have anything with A&M. Like we still hate Kansas, but they won't play us in any place in basketball. But yeah, you're gonna love it. I'm just telling you, God, that Christmas when it was a rumor that we might go to the SEC, I prayed every night. I'm not kidding. I prayed, and I told my wife, I was like, God, I don't even need anything for Christmas. Just please let Mizzou go to the SEC. Like that's all. And when we got it, the day they announced it and they did the whole thing in the student commons at Mizzou, I drove all the way out there to get a picture of it. I was like, oh my God, we're actually in the SEC. And now Mallory's worried we're going to get kicked out because you guys got in. She's like, they're going to kick us out because they let us. I'm like, I don't think that's how it works, but.
No, I don't think so. I think they're going to be happy with all the revenue they can get, regardless of where it's coming from.
It's all about the money. It's exactly right. All right, so we'll get cracking here. Episode 1945. What's up, Corwin of Amber and Rob and everybody else who is in here? And let's go. Here we go. Welcome to episode 1945 of the Be Our Guest Walt Disney World Trip Planning Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rallman from BeOurGuestPodcast.com and one of the senior agents over at the Magic for Less Travel. Happy Monday to you. And hey, little behind the scenes here on the Be Our Guest Podcast. Hoping the ratings go back up just a little bit because the Olympics are over for right now, right? Did we take a hit because of the Olympics? No, we didn't. You guys listen to our show all the time, so we're fine. But I don't know what I'm going to do on the treadmill. The Olympics are amazing for when you're running 13 miles on a treadmill at 5:30 in the morning. You just take your little Spectrum app on your iPad, sit it there, go back from USA to NBC Sports Network to all these weird networks that have replays of everything. Guess it's back to Pluto TV in the match game, which is kind of sad, but that's what I do to get in shape when it's hot outside and I'm on the treadmill. But anyway, we're here for a trip report. We're going to have a good time talking about an amazing trip last March with a Boomer Sooner. Yes, welcome to the SEC to Jill down in Oklahoma. What's going on, Jill?
Not a lot. Excited to talk Disney with you. And if we end up talking football, super happy to talk about that too.
Yeah, it could go that way. I mean, this could turn into the Paul Feinbaum show, which you'll realize that becomes a staple every fall. You have to find out what all the crazies in the other schools in your conference now are going to be saying. So it's good stuff. Anyway, let's talk Disney because we got so much to talk about. We have about 40 minutes to get it all in. So before we do that, a couple of questions that I've been asking folks here on Mondays before we get started. First of all, give us the background on your fandom down in Oklahoma. Why are you such a big Disney fan? Why you listen to Disney podcasts? Like, how did it all start for you?
So, I mean, as a kid, loved the Disney movies. We went back in 98 or 99 with some cousins. They were Disney Vacation Club owners. And then I ended up doing the Disney College program after my freshman year of college. And that's really where it started. And just absolutely fell in love with, everyone loves Disney World, but fell in love with the history and the heritage. And of course, I'm the person that I listen to trip planning podcasts. I also read the books and I watch all the behind the scenes, movies. And so I'm a huge Disney nerd down to how they design the ride systems. Like as soon as Disney Plus released the new series that they have like behind the attraction, like the rest of my family was like, all right, that's great. I was like with my popcorn, like ready to go. So huge fan. I'm like the person people call when they're like, hey, I'm headed to Disney World. Like, I don't even know where to start. I'm like, okay, well, first of all, you need to listen to the Be Our Guest podcast. You need this travel agency. And like, you know, like I don't necessarily know that I would ever want to be a travel agent, like sitting on hold for 2 hours. Like, God bless you guys for doing that for us. But I'll talk about it all day long.
Well, I can tell you what, you know, some days I pull my hair out when I'm waiting on hold. I'm like, I just want to get this done, and my hands are tied right now. But then I think about, you know, do you want to be doing report cards right now, Mike? No. Just let the Disney music play on a 28-minute loop, you know, for infinity, because that's much better than trying to make up, you know, like your kid participated in class this quarter. Well, I mean, some days it did, some days it didn't. Is that a 2? I don't know. Okay, so that's really interesting that you did college program, because that's one of my biggest regrets in life is that I just didn't know about it. You know, I had no idea at the time, but I think that would have been so up my alley, because I would have loved to have seen Walt Disney World in that kind of capacity and to, you know, be a part of making the magic for the guests. You know, when I taught, my best teaching experiences was 2 summers I spent down at Space Camp, working with teachers as far as like professional development. I had a team every week, 16 teachers. We'd do a whole, you know, simulated missions. I loved it because I got to see education from kind of the other side of the fence. So just, I'm curious about that. Looking back at that, like what was your role and what was your biggest takeaway from college program?
Yeah, so I had 2 roles because I loved it so much. I stayed for a second semester because they have a thing where you can kind of do a mini interview and stay on. So my first semester, I was at Downtown Disney because it was that many years ago. And I worked at Pin Traders, which at first I was like, boo, I'm not in a park, but it's so much fun. Some of the friends I made that first semester, which I will tell you was, I think, 12 years ago at this point, like we still text each other almost daily. Wow. So the relationships were incredible. And then the second semester, I was at Animal Kingdom in entertainment, and I was a character attendant. Nice. So that was so fun. Even when someone's like yelling at you because Mickey just like left, and really, you know that Mickey's just grabbing a bite of cheesecake. He'll be right back. It's fine. You know, it was so much fun getting to really be a part of the story. The first semester was like fun being at, well, now Disney Springs was in Downtown Disney, and getting to work at, it was Pin Traders, occasionally Trendy. Trendy had like just opened when I was there, and then Team Mickey. And so what I loved is we got to do a lot of classes that were completely free. They were a part of the program. And so I took one on Disney Heritage. And so part of that is we actually went, and if you think about like the behind the scenes tours you can do at Magic Kingdom now, it was like that, but we got to see even more behind the scenes because we could any day that we wanted to, really. But getting to really like hear about the history and Walt and Roy and how it started. And I mean, they taught us everything about like the architecture to like the angle of the street and why it is the way it is, and just really learning about the details of that. I mean, those are lessons I still use as a consultant today.
Right. So, and the thing, I mean, you took advantage of the environment and the situation you were in, which, I mean, you know, what more could you ask if you're the Disney company, you know, the Walt Disney Company? Like, you want somebody that is that invested in that, because by you knowing that and being that deeply involved in not just the front line, but the how you got to where you are today, it benefits the guest in the long run because you're more passionate for the product. You also, you know, have more information to share with the, you know, if I was at Pin Traders, you know, we could strike up a conversation on that, and I'm probably buying 5 pins, you know, just because I'm like, yeah, that's cool. So that's okay. Last question. Go ahead.
I'll say that was so one of the best parts is getting to have those conversations with people. And like one little story that like I will never forget, like I'll probably be 80 years old and still remember this, is I was at Pin Traders and they have the pin trading board. And technically it only opens every so often. Well, we could like open it up to make our own magical moments. And I had this super sweet little old grandpa who came in, and he looked kind of like frazzled. And I went up to him and asked him what he was looking for. And he was looking for 2 separate pins. He's looking for a Lilo and a Stitch. because he was super ornery and then his granddaughter was super sweet, and they referred to each other as Lilo and Stitch.
I love it.
And all of our pins were those two together, and he like really wanted two separate. And Stitch was easy, like he's right there, which Mickey allowed us to occasionally give gifts within reason. And so I gave him the Stitch pin, and I had the pin board open not 20 minutes earlier. There had been a little Lilo pin on there. So I took him over there, made sure he had that pin to give his granddaughter. He brought his whole family back, made them take a picture with me, like had his granddaughter give me a hug. And it was just like the coolest thing. Like knowing that, to me, it was like no big deal, it's another Tuesday, but like to them, like that made their trip. And knowing that I got to be a part of that was literally the coolest.
Not only the memory, but you have like, they will have that tangible reminder of that moment because of the pin, and the pin's forever. I mean, that's a great story. I was thinking, being a character attendant, you're just like front and center to, I'm sure, some amazing, quotes from kids. And, I traveled all the way from the other side of the world so I could give this specific character a hug. I mean, I've seen that as a guest, just waiting my turn to meet a character, usually after a race or something with a medal. And I'm like, holy cow, that was emotional. And you were like front and center for that too.
Yeah, that was, being character attendant was probably like the highlight of my life. And I'm like, well, that was 12 years ago. So I peaked.
I know that's how I feel. Yeah. Camp days were probably my best days. That was 20 years ago. Anyway, okay. So last question. That promise getting into the trip. The 50th coming up. You could bring back anything you want: a show, a promotion, an attraction, anything from the past 50 years. What are you bringing back?
Oh, that is so hard. Just one.
And the correct answer is Illuminations or Tapestry of Nations, one of the two. But go ahead.
Illuminations. Illuminations. I'm glad because I was like sitting there thinking about like, I'm that person who like, I loved the Norway ride the way it was and the old Canada video, but no, Illuminations, 100%.
Well, Illuminations and Tapestry of Nations, that was the perfect like 1-2 combo to the end of your night, because that's kind of when I think it truly, I believe that it's kind of what was there when you kind of first really fell in love with Walt Disney World. That's why I love Spectrum Magic so much. I miss that so much. But also, we would just end the night at Epcot. We used to see those drums, those big wheel, the parade around the World Showcase Promenade, and then bam, Illuminations. You're just like, yeah, world's great.
When you hear the speaker blow out all the lanterns, like, oh, chills, like tears.
No, for real. Okay, we got to get into the trip. Yes. So you went down in May. So tell us about kind of how this trip came together.
Yeah, so having been a college program kid, I've gone back several times, really wanted to take my daughter. She was 6 whenever we took her earlier this year. And before that, like ever since I had her, I've been dying to take her, and things just in life weren't working out for me to be able to take her. And then I ended up meeting my now husband, and we had wanted to take her, and then we, life got in the way, and we finally got married, and we finally were like, and then COVID happened. We got married in the middle of COVID, and we finally were like, you know what? Like, it's open enough. We're going to go down there and we're going to make the absolute best of it. Like, who cares if we don't get to see fireworks and we have to wear masks? Like, we plan on going again. Mm-hmm. So let's just go. And so we wanted to go in March when it was still going to be like not terribly hot. Still pretty nice. We knew that the crowds would be less-ish because we went before spring break.
Right.
So that's kind of why we decided. It was my husband's second time. He hadn't been in 15, 16 years. It was the second time, my daughter's first time. So that's kind of what set the stage for us going.
Okay, so let's hop it. You actually traveled down to my wife's birthday on March 7th. So
happy birthday.
Well, there it is. Yeah, the March 7th, the year before, I was running a half marathon. It's kind of the day the world fell apart. I just remember because that was like the fun thing that I did for like 6 months. Because I was like, oh yeah, because I ran the half marathon super fast, got my PR, but best time ever, because we had a party at her parents' house for her birthday that like at noon. I was like, okay, I got to get home, get charged, and get late for my wife's birthday party. Incentive to run fast. Okay, so you guys you stayed at Pop Century, correct? How'd that work?
Yes. We loved it. We had originally wanted to do Art of Animation in the Little Mermaid rooms, but we're going to have some construction going on. So we decided to do Pop Century instead, and we loved it. It was perfect for what we needed. Those rooms are so cool with like the bed that folds up and turns into a table, and they just have such a great use of space. So we thought it was really great for what the three of us needed for this trip.
Important question I have to ask everybody that stays at Pop. How many times you hit your knees on that corner of the bed in the middle of the night? None? Did it not happen?
I didn't, because I slept closest to the bathroom.
Okay.
For that reason.
I always sleep by the door because I get up to run before everybody else gets up. But then, I have to go put in my contacts, to go run. And it's always like, because you just don't see those beds are like invisible, the platform.
Yes.
Anyway, that's my big thing there. I do love Pop though. It's, Skyliner access. It's just fun. Like we were there this summer again. It was so fun.
The Skyliner's the best.
And that's kind of how you wrapped up your trip, I see. And then I'm skipping into the notes, but we'll get there. Okay, so you arrive, your room's not ready. So you guys just change into some clothes and head to Disney Springs. I like this start. So how was Disney Springs as far as like you're amped up, you're ready to go? Did Disney Springs kind of scratch that itch?
It was, so for me, having, of course, that was my home.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
When I was there.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, you just said that. Yeah, definitely. You're going like that. Yeah. Right.
I had been back a couple times, but not since it really became what it is today. And so I was like in shock of what it looked like today. But we had so much fun just like walking around and like going to all the stores. My husband, this is super random. My husband loves Stance socks. He has like over 100 pairs, and they had an actual Stance store.
Okay, I have no idea what Stance socks are, and I probably only own 12 pair of socks, and I'm a runner. So yeah, that's incredible on two different ends.
So they've only really ever been like online, or he could find them at like Ross or TJ Maxx. Well, they had an actual like store there. And so like he immediately is like geeking out over these like socks. And I'm like, we're in Disney World. Can you not geek out over socks? But we just had fun walking around. Since I had spent so much time at Penn Traders, I ate a lot of Earl of Sandwich back in the day. And so that was my thing. So I was like, guys, we have to go.
Okay. So
my husband was like,
what's your go-to sandwich? If you have to it's
holiday.
The holiday sandwich. Oh God. Yes, it is
the holiday.
Oh my God. So
yes. Good. Holiday sandwich with their potato salad on the side.
Okay. Yeah, that was actually my meal in July. I had the potato salad for my side. Also, their mac and cheese, very good, but it was a hot day, so I went potato salad. Yeah, good call.
That was just I was like, we have to go. And my husband was like, I don't get it. It's a sandwich. And then we got there and he was like, oh, I see now. Okay.
I'm glad they don't have them in St. Louis because I'd be 700 pounds because they're so good.
Same. Same. Yeah, that was a great way to start. And, we walked around the Christmas store and Trendy. And so it was a great way to just kind of start like dipping our toes into like all of the Disney magic. And like going to like the Star Wars Trading Post. My husband loves Star Wars. So that was a really great way to get started.
So you kind of hung out in your old digs there over in the marketplace.
Oh yeah.
It sounds like this is my corner of Disney Springs, downtown.
Basically, because I was lost anywhere else.
It is true. Once you go over to the west side, it's like, okay, where's Pleasure Island?
You're like, I have no idea.
Yeah, where's 8 tracks? I can't find 8 tracks. It used
basically to be like after Raglan Road, I was lost.
Right. Yeah, right. I mean, like sprinkles, that's cool. There's a little like pond and it's beautiful. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got to get through so much. I'll make sure we get in. So you had that day, you brought Chicken Guy back to the resort. The next day though, you planned kind of a rest day because you had traveled the day before, kind of getting settled. Looking back, I mean, was that a good idea, or do you think you should have gone into a park that day? Were you kind of regretting it? How's that rest day kind of early on in the trip?
We loved it. For us specifically, mostly for my husband. Travel days.
Well, he was counting his socks. You got to, he's sorting them out.
Well, like just the whole got up really early the day before, got to the airport, traveled with a 6-year-old, and that was his first time flying with her. Because we met when she was 4. So this was his first big trip with her. And so of course, just stressed about all the things. So for our family, having a rest day, but still getting to do some fun things was exactly what we needed to really kick it off well.
Okay, so walk our audience through kind of just the highlights of your rest day, because the rest day isn't just, sleeping until noon and then swimming and that's it. I mean, because this was actually a very fun day. It just was a non-park day.
Yeah, so we went, we actually rode a bus to Disney Springs just so we could get Gideon's cookie, thanks listening to Be Our Guest, I was like, okay, we're going to have to go. I've heard all these things. I looked at the pictures. We watched a lot of like YouTube.
Yeah, not me. I've still yet to have a Gideon's cookie in my mouth. It's too much work and it's too many calories for me. But yeah, I will get one, but I'm scared I'll like it too much. I'll tell you that for recording. If I like it, then I'm in big trouble. So.
Yeah. Oh, because if you think Earl sandwich is a lot of calories, Gideon's is, but they're so worth it. So worth it. So we went to Disney Springs specifically to put our name on the list to come back later.
Nice.
Walked around for a little bit, and then we weren't paying attention to time, so we grabbed an Uber because we had a dining reservation over at Sanaa. My husband and my kiddo, they love animals. I love the bread service. So I was like, Sanaa's going to have to happen. So we went over there, had the bread service. They're both fairly picky eaters. They liked it. I loved it. And then we got to go outside and hang out with the animals. One of the cast members was out there. And so my daughter loved getting to talk to him and ask questions about the animals she was seeing. So that was really kind of cool to kick off with kind of a it wasn't like a super, what a lot of people call magical moment, but for me, it was so fun watching her to like interact with the cast member and ask her questions. From there, we went back, we got the Gideons, which we literally went to Disney Springs just to get the Gideons and then go back to our room. So got the Gideons, loved it. The peanut butter coffee was delicious. They had a special like peanut butter crunch cookie that was like combined with one of their other cookies. They were like life-changing. We're considering flying down there just to get some more. So we loved that.
I do not need this in my life, but you guys are killing me. Every person I've talked to says the same thing. Okay, fine. When I go down in for the 50th, I'll have to go to Disney Springs and get it.
Well, and then, so we went back, went, swimming, relaxed by the pool. And then we had an ADR at Beaches and Cream, which is another one of my like favorite places. I love the No Way Jose. Sadly, I didn't get it because we rode the Skyliner over. That was actually my daughter's first time. Well, all of our first times on the Skyliner. That's her favorite Disney World attraction is the Skyliner. Rode that over to the Epcot area, went to Peaches and Cream. Dinner was great. We got the little, instead of the full kitchen sink, we got the mini kitchen sink, which is like so cute. And it comes with a souvenir Minnie Mouse sink that you get to keep. So she ate that up. And we headed back to go to sleep so we could get up early the next day to hit the ground running.
Man, that is a great first. I mean, think about it. You guys, got in line for Gideon, so you had it later. So now the bread service, the animals, you did a little swimming, over to Beaches and Cream, ride the Skyliner. I mean, that's almost the perfect Disney day right there without being in a park. I mean, I can't.
It was great.
Hold on, everybody. Strap in because the next day is pretty awesome. Okay, so you did a VIP tour in your first kind of. So you went from not being in the parks to like, okay. Hold my beer. I don't drink beer. I don't know if you drink beer, but it's like, here we go, man. We're going to take it on all at once here. It's like eating a Gideon's cookie in one bite.
Yeah.
So I can imagine, I guess. Okay. So you had the VIP tour. So tell us about how that came about and then walk us through this day, because I think everybody's curious about what that experience is like.
Yeah. So actually I have my notes pulled up just so I can look at them because we did so much. So the VIP tour was actually gifted to us. So speaking of that college program, one of the girls that I worked with on the college program, we've just kept up with each other on social media. And I had posted something about, trip planning and asked for food suggestions because I was actually had way too many. I wanted to make like 20 ADRs and I was trying to narrow it down. So she messaged me, was asking some different questions. And I thought she was just being nice and telling me where to go eat. And then she was like, hey, I know this is going to sound weird, but is this your daughter's first trip? And I was like, yeah. She was like, okay, second weird question. My husband and I, we belong to this club, happened to be Club 33, come to find out. Nice. And she was like, yeah, we belong to this club. And she was like, I've just followed your story. I've had some kind of crazy stuff happen the last couple of years. And she was like, we would just love to really gift you with a VIP tour to make your daughter's first trip extra special. And of course, I'm like bawling as I get this message, like, oh my gosh, like
I'll call you back in 10 minutes when I get my jaw off the floor somehow.
Yeah.
Like, my husband, can you pick up my jaw? Yeah, exactly. So wow, what a great friend.
Yeah, I was like that. And she basically, she believes that, they've been blessed to be able to afford to be able to do that. And so they want to be able to give back to people who they wanted, give back to. So that was, and I like immediately call my husband and he's like, well, that's cool. And then I actually explained to him like what that meant.
No, that's
and he was like,
cool.
oh. And I was like, you do know, like, we'll probably never afford this on our own ever again. So after I explained all that to him, my husband was like, I was going to say yes anyways, but like, yeah, like that's so cool.
Yeah, Mallory sees them in the parks and she's always like, well, why don't we do that? And I tell her how much it costs and she's like, well, that's not that. I'm like, that's each hour. I'm like, it's not happening. So yeah, I'm your tour guide. I'm not VIP, but just follow me. I'll bring it stick and we'll have fun. So now let me ask you about the logistics of this. So you get gifted this. Do they reach out to you pre-trip? Like what's kind of the behind the scenes stuff that you were excited about being a Disney fan?
Yeah. So she told me, she was like, hey, because we get X number of VIP tours as a part of this like Club 33 package, you get 7 hours with your own tour guide. And so she just had to ask for like our contact information, my daughter's age, where we were staying. And then literally like an hour later, like Disney VIP Tours was calling. They're like, hey, this is so-and-so from the Disney VIP Tours. And we're here to talk about your trip. And we've got some questions for you. And are there any dietary restrictions we need to know about? And like, ask me all these questions. And they're like, what questions do you have for us? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm still processing.
No, for real. What do you know what to ask?
And so from like logistics wise, they told me, they were like, you can plan as little or as much as you want. Your tour guide will get you into as much as they can within 7 hours. The only thing that was off limits was, of course, Rise of the Resistance.
Right.
But other than that, everything else was free game.
So then I can imagine you're just like, my head would explode, right? Because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, a lifetime opportunity. How do I make sure that this, because it's going to be the fastest 7 hours of your life, right? I run marathons, like sometimes they're almost 7 hours, longest 7 hours of your life. This, this has to be just like all craziness. So how do you decide what the goal of this one day experience is going to be?
So the way we approached it is I was like, our tour guide, they're like, having been a Disney cast member, I know that being a tour guide is a coveted position as a cast member. Those are like the elite. So I was like, I'm going to trust this person to where I'll say, hey, here's my list. You do with it what you think is best.
Smart.
Because, heading up to the vacation, I was watching what wait times typically were. But I basically was like, hey, I'm going to make this list. I had a whole spreadsheet of like at each park, what were the top things that I knew were going to be important to us, to do. And so I basically made that list and gave it to the tour guide and just said like, hey, here's kind of our top things, but like, I trust you to get us into where we want to go.
Nice.
And so we could either meet them at the park or we could have them pick us up, which technically meeting them at the park would have probably saved us a little bit of time. But we also were at Pop. I knew buses were kind of weird. So I was like, you pick us up.
Yeah. And it's just cool. Like Disney's coming to get you. I think I would do that too. That'd be pretty cool.
We definitely had people giving us funny looks when they were like picking us up. Like, who are these? Like, you're sitting at Pop Century and you're going on that. Like
what movie was she in? That's I'm not kidding. Like I think we all play this as Disney fans, right? You see somebody walking around with, a small group in the parks and you're always just like, is that a ball player? Is that is that a movie star? Is that a reality star? Like, and it's like, I'm always trying to pick out which one, like one of them is like all their buddies or something, it's just, I don't know. Everybody probably plays that game. So that was you all day probably. So they pick you up, so they get you on those, like this little kind of like church vans, right? Is that what they transport you in?
Ours was, because there were only 3 of us, they just picked us up in like an SUV. And that's why they'd asked about my daughter's age. They provided a booster seat for her.
Very cool. Okay. Cool. So at that point, I guess you meet the tour guide and they kind of, I guess they introduced themselves and kind of give you the expectations for the day.
Yeah. So we met up, they gave us expectations, kind of like the rules. Because of COVID, things were a little bit different. And then from there, we like loaded up. We headed to Magic Kingdom. Of course, that was one of the best parts is we had to go park on the backside. So for me, it was really cool getting to see everything off stage again, which was super fun. My daughter being 6, we told her like, hey, this is a really special experience. You know, we tried to let her know ahead of time, like, this is not how everyone gets to do it. Like, this is special. And she was like, first day, she's 6. She's like, whatever, like, this is so cool. So went to Magic Kingdom and we were like, you just take us wherever. And so we did Aladdin, Jungle Cruise, Pirates, Big Thunder, Haunted Mansion, Small World, because normally I wouldn't have done that. But my daughter had in her head that we had to do Small World. So we did Small World, Seven Dwarves, and Space Mountain.
That's so. How long do you think it took to do those attractions? Yeah, I mean, you just looking back a couple hours for that.
Hour and a half.
That's crazy.
Hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, because there was a few things. So because there wasn't a quote unquote fast pass line for them to kind of like take us to the front of, there were a few things like I know Small World, we had to wait like 10 minutes to get on, which again, that was not a complaint, just a like fact.
Yeah.
And so after that, we went specifically to Animal Kingdom just to do the Avatar world, to do Pandora, because I knew those were going to be the longest waits. And I knew that whenever we went to Animal Kingdom another day that we could do the safari in Everest first thing and it wouldn't be a big deal. So we went there just to do Pandora.
So not only was it helping you this day, but it was actually making your trip better a couple days down the line when you visited outside of a VIP tour. Like, okay, we've knocked off these long wait time attractions off the list. It's going to make it easier. Now, see, you had 3 things listed for Animal Kingdom. My favorite of those 3, lunch at Satuli Canteen. By far, that's my favorite of the 3. But that's
my gosh, it was so good. We loved the Navi River journey. Flight of Passage was great. We had a hiccup there that took a little extra time. My daughter did not, which is so funny. She loved every single roller coaster we did. We sat down. She was like a little apprehensive. And then the thing that holds you in that comes up to your back, she wasn't like bracing for it. And it scared her. And she had a meltdown. Wow. So they let us do a rider switch. My husband did it. I did it. And after we both got off, we just looked at each other and we were like, that was the most incredible thing that we've done. So then we went to Satuli Canteen. From there, hopped over to Hollywood Studios to do Smuggler's Run, which my daughter, as soon as we got off, she goes, I think I like Star Wars now. So now she's watching.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a little bit of, she's hard to impress. I mean, it takes flying the Millennium Falcon for her to become a fan, but I mean, whatever it takes, I guess.
She's kind of been exposed to the movies, but she's still very much into like cartoony, princessy. Right. But now she's really into Star Wars. We went to do Slinky Dog and Dash and Runaway Railway. Since those were kind of like the big ticket items, we knew that we like absolutely had to do those. Slinky Dog was amazing. Yep. And Runaway Railway, I do miss the Great Movie Ride.
But okay, would you could bring it back? Would you bring it back in lieu of Mickey and Minnie's? I would. But I'm old. That's my thing.
I would for me. Now my daughter, she calls them the silly Mickey Mouses, like that style cartoon she watches. She calls them the silly Mickey Mouses on Disney Plus. And girlfriend loved that ride. Yeah, and it's a really cool ride.
It's a really cool ride. I mean, lots of different stuff you can see even riding at your 5th, 6th, 10th time. I call him aggressive Mickey because it just seems like he's aggressive. Like Mickey wasn't so aggressive back in the day. He doesn't beat around the bush. He goes right after it. So
he kind of scares me a little, but she loves it. So I'm like, whatever, it's fine. And then we were kind of really coming up at the very end of our tour. But we were able to squeeze in running over to Epcot, which I also like looked at the map and made sure to strategically go from like one place to the other, really, so we could end at Epcot so we could do the flower and garden. And so we went to Epcot just to hop on Soarin', and then he had just enough time to get us onto Frozen before we said our goodbyes to him. And that was like, so we started, I think it was right about 4:00 that the VIP tour ended. And then we spent the rest of the evening in Epcot.
Okay. So I want to get all the rest of the stuff in. We got about 10, 15 minutes. Because I know we talk a lot about this, but we don't get a lot of folks to get to do this. So I want to talk about it. But I can imagine at the end of the day, like, after Frozen, it's kind of like because we do Disney cruises, and you have your wait staff that, like, takes care of you for 4 or 5, 7 nights, whatever it is. And they almost immediately become like family because they know, like, oh man, Mike likes Coke Zeros. We'll bring him 3, and he'll drink them all.
Yeah.
And he likes his food. And, even though this was a short 7 hours, I'm sure that, like, not only is it bittersweet because they're leaving you and, you don't get all this access anymore, but I mean, I'm sure that, like, there's kind of some fun times you spent together just in that 7-hour period. You're at 4 Walt Disney World theme parks. I mean, was it kind of like, oh man, I'm gonna miss you, and I hope to see you again sometime?
Yeah, well, and especially so again, like, I'm a massive Disney, like, history nerd, and my husband loves, like, random factoids, and, like, he was telling us, like, all of this really cool stuff and stuff that I was like, how did I never know that? And so, like, that part made me really sad too. Is I was like, oh my gosh, like, I just love hearing all of the random, like, hey, did you know this or did you know that? And, pointing out the fact that, in Toy Story Land, Buzz is on the end closest to Star Wars because to infinity and beyond, and he's pointing to space.
Right.
Little things like that, or, he's talking about the private runway that they used to have, way, way, way back in the day, and getting to hear all of those things were so cool. On top, like, it's great getting to the front of the line. Like, that part was incredible. Yeah, don't get me wrong. But, like, getting to hear all of those, like, stories and, like, oh, did you know this or did you know that was, like, incredible.
God, what a great job. That'd be just the ultimate role, right? I mean, because obviously to have that role, you got to be a huge Disney fan. You got to be knowledgeable, but I mean, you are, every time you go out with a family, with a couple, whoever you're going out with, I mean, this is, that's going to be one of the best days of their life, and you get to be a part of that. That's just, that's the kind of stuff I look at when I think about Disney cast members, because I've never been, as a cast member, but I appreciate them because 90% of the time, the memories I make in a Walt Disney World theme park or at a hotel or whatever it is on property, the magic is because a cast member is related somehow. It's not usually just because I'm on Pirates of the Caribbean. It's not the attraction. The attraction's fun, but it's usually some interaction with a cast member. God, but that would be the best. I mean, just God. It's so cool because it's so intimate. You get to spend time with somebody more than just a passing moment. That'd be great. Oh my God.
It was incredible. That was the highlight for sure. The next day we were in line and my daughter was like, what are we doing here? And I was like, oh honey, welcome back to the real world.
Yeah, we're commoners again. Yeah, we're waiting in line.
Welcome back to peasant life.
I know that's my daughter too. So now that we don't have fast passes, I mean, she's a fast pass kid, right? She's 13. Like, what's this without fast pass? Like, this is what we did at Six Flags when I was a kid, and it was worse. Yeah. So, and the rides were near as cool. I'm just telling you.
For sure.
Okay, so let's skip to the next day because you got up and did the Rise of the Resistance boarding group. Now, this was I remember in March. Did you have to do it at the resort? Or did you have to be in the park? I think it was still at the resort.
We could do it from the resort.
Okay, good. So it worked. So you got your boarding group.
Yes, got our boarding group. So I basically woke up my husband. I was like, I got us in.
Won the lottery.
Yeah. Well, and I asked our tour guide the day before. I was like, do I have this set up correctly? He was like, yes, you do. He was like, here's the key. Because you have everyone on there, you're the only person who's doing it. He was like, don't even look at the options. Just hit the button. It'll have everything selected. Just hit the button.
Yes.
And that's what I did. I just hit the button and it was like, you're in. And I was like, oh, I was like, a VIP tour. We got a boarding group. Like, I'm done.
Very solid 24 hours. I'm just saying.
Yes. Well, and we had actually finished the VIP day at Garden Grill, which I'd never been. And we were like one of the last ones there. And so my daughter got all of this attention from the characters, which was incredible. And then I get up and get Rise of the Resistance boarding passes. And so I was like, I have officially peaked in life.
That's right.
It's all downhill from here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else. I mean, I don't know how this trip gets any better at this point. You're on day 2. Okay, so I love this. Well, I mean, it gets better. You got a Joffrey's donut on the way to the Skyliner. I always want to stop at that stand, like when I go to the beach of summer. But I'm always like, I gotta get on the Skyliner, hustle where I'm going. But don't worry, I ate my share of Joffrey's donuts on the trip because I always get now. My trick is like when the line's a little bit long for Space Mountain and they have the outdoor, like we got zigzag to get into the. I grab a donut there and eat it by the time I get slam that sucker before I get into the inside part of the line. So that's well,
we just split up. I held the plate. It was a super long line that morning, so I held the place in line. Husband went to get the donut. We had it scarfed before we got on the Skyliner, so it was great. My daughter was just happy to be on the Skyliner. So as soon as we got there, we went straight for Smuggler's Run because we didn't get there quite as early as we wanted to for rope drop, but we were still like in the first 20 minutes of it being open. So went straight to Smuggler's Run, got to that one again, which was incredible. Went over to do Toy Story Mania, which is one of like my favorites. Because that opened not too long before I was there way back in the day. And I remember waiting like 4 hours for it.
Right.
So having like a 15-minute wait was like, this is great.
It's like totally, that's what I tell everybody. Like I told Mallory this in July. I'm like, this trip, they used to hold us on Hollywood Boulevard right at sunset. And it was a free for all to get back to Toy Story. Yes. It wasn't where it is now. It's across from that little stand, like where there's a dead end. That's where you ran to. And here's the ultimate trick. You got a fast pass as quick as you could from the fast pass machine. You took everybody's little key to the world cards. Got those fast passes. Then you ran as fast as you could to get in the standby line because it was the greatest thing ever. Now it's 15 minutes.
Yeah. Which was like so funny because I was like hyping it up and my husband was like, it's like 15 minutes. Like and we got on it and he was like, oh, this is actually really cool. This is super fun.
It is. It's still cool. But hey, 15 minutes, I'll take it because I, wait for everything else. Now I don't want to hop through all this because we're running a little bit short. And I want to get it all in. You guys did what I've been doing lately. Baseline Tap House, perfect place. It's like
so solid.
It's like the bullpen to wait out your Rise of Resistance boarding group time. Yes. Is that what you did? That's what I've done.
Well, we knew that we were super close, so we didn't want to hop in any other lines because we had done all the stuff we really wanted to do, and everything that we had left that we wanted to do was like Slinky Dog, and I was like, we don't have 60 minutes. So we went to Baseline. We just got, since they have 8 beers, my husband and I got both flights so we could try both of them. Got a big old pretzel for the kiddo, a charcuterie board, and just like chilled. And by the time we were done, which I also don't know that I recommend Baseline Tap House and getting the flights right before you hop on Rise of the Resistance, but I mean, we were fine. But it wasn't one of those like, I hope I don't have to go to the bathroom in the middle of this ride because I just drank this whole flight. But got to Rise of the Resistance, which was just no spoilers, just it'll knock your socks off. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, it's still, you got to get down there if you haven't done it. It's amazing.
It was amazing.
Okay, so let's head over to day 3. You guys went to Animal Kingdom, got there super early. Like you said, you've already taken care of Avatar and Pandora and everything you went over there. So let's head straight to the safari, Everest. So how does this whole day unfold now that you kind of have the big weight stuff out of the way?
It was like so chill knowing that like we don't even have to worry about running over to Pandora. We loved it. But we're cool with not doing it again until we go back. Michaela's still a little too little to really like, she's never seen the movie. So she was like, it's cool, but whatever. So she loved the safari. Loved the safari. It was super great. We went over to Everest. My husband set that one out because he doesn't like heights. The second we got off of it, my daughter was like, let's get back on it. Which of course the line looked super long. Literally hopped in line and literally walked to the front. Because of social distancing, like the line just kept moving. Right. And so rode that again, went back over safari, still at a short line, rode the safari again. So between the first and second time, we saw every single animal, that was a really cool thing to get to do. Then went to like Rafiki's Planet Watch. Raya had come out the Friday before, so got to draw one of the animals. Since we had seen that, went to Flame Tree for lunch because their barbecue is so good. That's a lot coming from an Okie who eats a lot of barbecue.
I mean, you would know. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that was super awesome. Went back to the resort after we did a few other like little like trails and stuff. But after we had Flame Tree, went back to the resort, swam, headed over to the studios because we had not gotten to do the Frozen Ever After sing-along thing.
Okay. Wait, stop. Is that not... Because we did this twice this summer. Yeah. And my daughter, again, she's 13 and she took her friend who's 14 this trip. That was the one thing they wanted to do twice at the studios was the Frozen sing along. And you know what? My wife and I were both blown away both times. Like, this is such an underrated thing. And I know a lot of people don't, want to take time for shows. I mean, it is so good. It is so good. I love it. And I mean, I'm not, that's not really aimed at, dads, but it's a great show.
Oh, my husband thought it was hysterical. They have so many dad jokes.
Yeah, there are.
They really nailed the like clean adult humor.
Yes, they did.
So funny. So that was worth it. Right. But we got there thinking we could get into one show. It was full. So we waited for that. We had plenty of time to wait for the next one. Went and got some Mickey bars. We had a little magical moment where my daughter got her Mickey bar for free. Opened it, dropped hers, got another one for free.
Okay.
bless her heart. The cast member was so sweet. We tried to like pay it forward. She was like, sorry, I can't accept your cash for anybody else. But we just had so much fun with, we sat there eating our Mickey bars. Cavalcade went by with some of her favorite characters while we were waiting, got to see that. And then we Ubered over to Disney Springs for Homecoming, which was...
Okay, so I got to ask you about that. That's comfort food. I mean, like really high quality comfort food. I mean, like, when it first came out and I went there for the first time, I said, it's like a very, very, very nice Cracker Barrel. And I'm not disparaging it. That's what I had for dinner last night. It was a Cracker Barrel right down the road from where we live.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a treat. I love that stuff. But it is, I mean, and you're kind of from a place where that kind of food is rather popular. So did it live up to the hype that you had heard?
Yes. We were all in pain when we left.
Oh yeah, totally. Oh my God. Yeah, I leave that place. I'm just like, oh, kill me. I can't get back to the hotel. I'm not going to make it. Just leave me behind.
So good. So good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Chef Art Smith got it going on. Okay. So you're kind of semi last day here. You haven't been to the Magic Kingdom outside of the VIP tour. So walk us through your day over there, because you'd already done some of it sound like a lot of Fantasyland stuff. So how'd that day go?
Yeah. Started off really rough. We got to the buses early, and there was a whole deal with spring break coming up. They had this influx of guests that they weren't ready for, just due to all the COVID stuff. The staff was so nice about it, but we waited well over an hour.
Wow.
To get on a bus, which was rough, but it was also like, once we were on it, we were happy campers, no big deal. Went to, let my daughter really, because the first day we had done everything in Magic Kingdom so fast, we kind of let my daughter just dictate what she wanted to do. So we went and we checked out the castle. She wanted to go see all the things about the castle, did that, rode the carousel, went and got some snacks over at Gaston's.
Cinnamon rolls. Those oh, so good.
So good. Even like the LeFou's brew was super fun. So we did that too. My husband ran over to Storybook and got himself a Peter Pan float. Loved that. Did the Little Mermaid ride. We did teacups. We did Buzz. We just kind of bounced around. We didn't have a real set plan other than like our lunch ADR, and just kind of bounced around. I think we did 7 Dwarves again, which was super fun. So we just kind of like soaked in the magic.
Nice. Okay, so you had lunch though, Be Our Guest. So
yes.
Everybody's always asking about that. Some people forget it's there at this point. I mean, it used to be the all hotness, 3 years ago. What were your thoughts on that? What would you tell folks about going to Be Our Guest?
We loved it. We did the lunch. I was really hoping to get breakfast, but they just weren't doing breakfast while we were there. We absolutely adored it. Like, such a cool atmosphere. My daughter was like in awe of being in the Beast Castle. We were kind of in like the main room where you could see that it was like snowing, and the food was incredible. We loved it. My husband got the bill and he was like, that was well worth it. And he's a banker. Like, he's a penny pincher. he's literally a banker, but he's also a penny pincher. And he was like, that was well worth it. And I was like,
that's impressive.
I've converted you. I've officially converted you to Disney dollars.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
We loved the appetizer. We loved the meal. The desserts were incredible. My daughter loved that her dessert was like interactive because she got to like paint with food coloring, or I don't know. She thought it was great. It was well worth every penny that we spent.
So after this, you guys took a break, and it'd be the 7 Dwarves, and took a break, and you wrapped up over at Epcot. So how'd that go?
It was great. We always kind of like, Epcot felt like an afterthought on a few days, mainly because of like the weird hours that they had. I couldn't justify making that like our first park of the day any other day. Which by the time we always got over there, everyone was tired. Epcot's my favorite park. So I just wanted to do all the things, eat all the things. So we just kind of walked around, got some different snacks. My daughter really wanted to ride Spaceship Earth, so we did that. And yeah, just kind of wrapped it up there because we knew that we needed to not stay too late because we needed to go back and get packed and everything, since we had breakfast reservations the next the next morning.
That night before the last day is the worst. And when you know you got to pack and get, that's the.
I know. I was like, I wanted to be like, can you two go back to the resort?
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay right here.
It's like I always turn the corner and I'm like, oh, please don't let that Magical Express envelope be on my door. Let it be on my neighbor's door, not mine, because I don't want to leave. But it always gets there eventually. But yeah. I always say you got to leave. You're gonna ever come back. So
yeah, I was so sad.
It is, but you always get to go again. So okay, so you guys, last day, Chef Mickey's. Now it sounds like this was a hit for you guys. Early morning breakfast at Chef Mickey's.
We loved it. So when we were there, it obviously was not a normal buffet, but they did family style. We like sit down and they like started bringing us food, and then they just kept bringing food. And my husband and I were like, how are the three of us supposed to eat all of this? But the food was delicious. We had ordered like some specialty drinks. Those were super yummy. Just like having the characters, the atmosphere was incredible. Like we've decided that's for sure going to be something that we do again. And that was another thing that like, you know, it's a character meal, so it's a little pricier. My husband got the bill and he was like, yeah, that was great. Worth every penny. Signed it. And I loved the food. One of my roommates from the college program was hanging out with the characters that morning. And so we got a lot of extra special attention from some of the characters, but especially from Mickey. And so that was like, I mean, way to just like put a cherry on top of an incredible trip.
Yeah, it's like the big cheese himself there to make sure you had a good time and to send you back to Oklahoma. Yeah.
I felt so bad. The rest of the families, like they got their time with Mickey, but like we really got our time with Mickey. So I felt kind of bad because they were looking at us like,
somebody in that restaurant was like, I told you that is that woman is in that movie that we saw on Netflix because I saw her on a VIP tour like 3 days. A couple of the table, 7 tables over is exactly the same. I'm just telling you, it happened. Okay, so you wrap it. Did you guys drive? It sounds like you guys or flew.
No, we flew. Okay.
So you guys went over to Disney Springs, did a little shopping, Ghirardelli, and then Skyliner ride. So then I guess you just hopped on Magical Express back to the airport and
yeah. We just wanted to get, did a little extra shopping, got some Ghirardelli, and we just wanted to be back like well ahead of the Magical Express. And we had some issues getting our baggage from the baggage service the first day because again they were just kind of overwhelmed. They were super great about it, but it just took a while. So we wanted to get back with plenty of time to get our luggage back and get on the Magical Express. So we got back with like well over an hour to spare. So I asked my daughter because she loved the Skyliner so much. I was like, hey, you want to go hop on the Skyliner for a little bit? She was like, yeah.
Yeah.
So we just rode.
Yeah, exactly. It's in your backyard. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah.
I love Skyliner. I could ride
that. That was like it was like middle of the day. No one was getting on it at Pops and Drew. We walked to the front, rode to the next station over at the Riviera, switched, got back onto the other side, rode it back, and then just waited for the bus.
Oh my gosh, this is such a great trip. And I'm glad we really got to dive into this case. Before we get out of here, though, I do want to ask you, because you've seen Walt Disney World from the, ultra enthusiastic fan side of things on this vacation. You've also seen it from the perspective of making the magic for the guests who are lucky enough to get to come down. What advice would you have for somebody that's getting ready to head down? Especially, you took your daughter 6 years old, first trip, husband kind of converted him on this trip, saw some stuff, folks are in this situation all the time. I'm nervous about taking my kid for the first time. Like, what can I do to make sure that it's as good as it can be, and your significant others and so forth? So what would you tell everybody, that's heading down in kind of a situation similar to yours?
Yeah. First of all, there's, as much as we were like, oh, what a perfect trip. There's really no such thing as a perfect trip, and it's going to be different for everybody. So I would say do your research. Don't feel like you have to ride or, watch a YouTube video of every single ride, but use your resources. Listen to the Be Our Guest podcast, look at a few blogs, watch some videos on YouTube just to get familiar with what all is there so you can really prioritize what's going to be important for you and your family. That's what, anytime someone asks me, I'm like, just find out what's going to be important for you and your family and make sure those are at the top of your list, and everything else is a bonus after that. Because, we decided, these were the few snacks that we wanted. We for sure wanted to eat these places, ride these things. And then everything else after that just feels like a bonus.
Yeah, right. It's great. Yeah. When you hit those things you really want to do, it's like, oh, we didn't even think about doing that. It's gravy and it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, I couldn't say it better myself. Is what I do every day, all day, and that's exactly it. Have a good idea of what you want to accomplish, but leave a lot of time for things you're not expecting. Because that's what
Oh,
Disney's
yeah.
all about. It's unexpected magic. I think a lot of times. You guys missed the fireworks, so hopefully next time you get to go. So ideally, I know not everybody has like an official trip on the books, but when would you like to get back if you had a chance? Things are changing.
Well, it'll probably not till 2023. We are currently expecting our first daughter together. And so due in January. And then next summer we have a trip to Hawaii with my family. So it'd be a little too much going on next year if we went next year. So really 2023. And really we're excited to have some extra time to save up to stay maybe at like a moderate resort, stay for a little longer. Because it was like day 2 or 3 and my husband was like, well, next time we come back. And I was like,
Right.
I've accomplished my mission in this marriage.
That's right. You're always like, well, next time.
And, we really, the masks didn't change a lot. My 6-year-old had no idea that she was missing out on fireworks. So it's going to be really cool that whenever we go back, we're not going to have to worry about masks. We're going to get to have fireworks. There's going to be a lot of new experiences, which I think is going to be super cool.
Surprise your husband with the Star Wars hotel. I can't afford that.
Gosh.
I look at the prices. I'm like, well, this dude is never going to be able to see that. So
I was like, I'll just be happy with a moderate.
I know that's about what I say. I'm like, thank God I got a podcast. I get to talk to somebody that gets to go in the Galactic Star Cruiser because we'll talk about it on a Monday, and I'll just live vicariously through them for 50 minutes and be happy. So anyway, Jill, thanks so much for kicking off the week with us. It sounds like it was a wonderful trip, and a big shout out to your friend for that amazing gift. And when you guys get down there again, we'll have to talk about it. But I hope Michaela had a great time, and I sure appreciate you sharing the trip with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you so much for being an awesome travel agent for us and just for everything that all you guys do on the Be Our Guest podcast to keep us like up to date and informed and prepared.
Oh, thank you. It's just, hey, you know how it is. It's just, we're lucky to get to do what we do. Really. I mean, it's best part of everybody's lives, at least I think so. So really, really appreciate it. All right. Hey, we got to get out of here. Don't forget today's show, as Jill mentioned, brought to you by the Magic for Less Travel. So check them out today over at themagicforless.com. We'll help you plan your next Disney vacation. I can't promise you a VIP tour. This dude hasn't even done one. I mean, right here, someday, maybe, but we'll see. But we'll just take great care of you, get you the best price possible on an amazing Disney vacation, all the Disney destinations. Check them out today over at themagicforless.com. Also, please use our Amazon affiliate link, beourguestpodcast.com/Amazon. That one extra click does really help us out. So please click through that, beourguestpodcast.com/Amazon. And also a huge shout out to our patrons. You guys allow us to put the show out 3 to 4 times a week all around the world. I can't thank you enough for that because you guys are supporting the show for everybody. And our patrons get Mike in the Midwest every Thursday, a little bonus podcast about what's going on here, all kinds of stuff. And so if you want to get in on that, just check out all the details over at patreon.com/Be Our Guest Podcast. Give us a follow on social media, Instagram and Twitter at Be Our Guest Mike. I'd love to talk to you over there. Also, Be Our Guest Pod on Instagram and Twitter. And don't forget to join us this Sunday night. My buddy, #Scotty G joins me. We take your calls on the BOGP open line, otherwise known as You, Me, and Scotty G. We'll have a good time this Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central on Facebook and YouTube. All right, we're going to get out of here and let you get on with your week. Thank you so much for kicking off another week with us here on the show. Hope it's a very productive one for you, a very happy one for you. But until we get together on Wednesday, for Jill, I'm Mike, wishing you a great Monday. Time to get back to work, and we'll see you real soon. Sounds like there's a war going on upstairs. I don't know what they're doing. They're moving furniture. But yeah, it's like, I love this mic because you can't hear it. Like on the mic, this is like a radio mic so that you don't hear all that junk. But yeah, it's like, it sounds like, I don't know what they're doing. The dog's chasing.
I made sure that my 6-year-old was with her grandparents.
24-year-olds, I'm telling you. And your husband's gonna have 2 girls. God bless them, because I've been there. And the funny thing is, like, Paige is my stepdaughter, and so so we got married when I met Pam. She was 4, so it's almost a very similar situation. We went to Walt Disney World about that time. She was 5 or 6. So yeah, I can totally relate to these stories. It's so cool. Except we never flew enough to fly. I wouldn't fly back.
So fun. And we've done a few like small things, but I mean that was like one of the first like trips we'd taken, let alone like a big trip. And it was
it's such a bonding
literally
thing,
the coolest.
Right? I mean, it's like You get to plan for it together. You get to. Sorry, I'm saving this before I end up losing the file.
No, you're good. We did a lot of. I didn't want to, put somebody out, like market for somebody else on the podcast, but we watched a lot of the Disney food blogs, I think what they're called.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they have a lot of like 10 to 15 minute videos, which is like my daughter's attention span. And so we had watched a lot of their videos because they have a lot of pictures.
Yep.
So she could see like some of the different rides and some of the different like food options. And so we would just like once a night pick a video and watch one of those, like the three of us together, and be like, oh, I want to try that, or I want to try that, or let's make sure we ride that. And so that was a really like fun way for all of us to like get excited before we got there. Oh, and now she asks literally once a week, like, Mom, when are you going back?
You're a Disney fan when you, instead of reading a bedtime story to your kid, you show them a Disney food blog video.
Yeah, basically. I was like, oh.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. I can relate. That just hits. I've been seen, as they say. I think that sounds like me.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for the time tonight.
Thank you.
Your husband, thanks, and Michaela for bar you here for an hour. But I hope you enjoy the show on Monday when it comes out.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you so much.
If you need anything, just give me a yell. I appreciate it. And welcome to the SEC.
Thank you. More sooner.
All right. I'd lose my Mizzou card. Okay. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.